keeper of the black secret. Do you know me?
By 1968, Barbara Steele had completed her run of Italian Gothic horror films, and there was really only one thing left to do: a victory lap. At the beginning of this series, I mentioned that I feel that Barbara Steele belongs at the top of the horror icons list alongside Boris Karloff and Christopher Lee. And that's exactly where she landed with 1968's The Curse of the Crimson Altar, or, as it's also known, The Crimson Cult. Based loosely on an H.P. Lovecraft story titled Dreams in the Witch House. Although it doesn't actually bear much resemblance to that short story, that wasn't uncommon in the 60s, where Lovecraft was being adapted, albeit very loosely, and often without even credit. Barbara Steele plays Lavinia, a witch who was killed by the townspeople, and is now back for revenge, albeit this time controlling them through dreams. This early version of a Freddy Krueger-type character isn't in the film a whole lot, and certainly she's not even heavily billed on any of the promotional material. But Barbara Steele's image in this film is really what has made it endure for as long as it has. Lavinia is unforgettable, with greenish-blue skin and a headdress that features ram's horns as well as peacock feathers, not to mention the chainmail bodice that reveals more than it obscures. The nightmare sequences are a psychedelic wonderland. Stuart Gordon and David Lynch come immediately to mind, as S&M fetishism mixes with occult symbolism, gothic set pieces, and borderline erotica. Psychedelia plays a large role in the look of this film, and that does nicely reflect the complex prose of H.P. Lovecraft. But at the same time, it's the kind of film that you're watching more for its individual elements than the overall picture. But what a joy it is to see Barbara Steele in the same film as Boris Karloff and Christopher Lee. It's like validation for the nearly decade worth of work she'd put in. And while the film meanders, loses focus, and is only occasionally as compelling as it could be, the scenes with Barbara Steele are mesmerizing, and some of her best work. But if the movie's only loosely based on H.P. Lovecraft, then what is it really about? Well, it's about Robert Manning, an antique dealer whose brother has gone missing. Robert travels to the town where his brother was last seen. There, he meets up with Christopher Lee, Christopher Lee's niece, and Boris Karloff. Not a bad vacation in my book. Manning spends most of his time attending drug parties and trying to bed the niece, but sometimes he looks for his brother. But interrupting these pursuits, he's haunted by dreams of Lavinia and her coven. What happened to his brother is no mystery to the viewer. That was the opening scene of the film. So the movie plays out as an experiment in mood and atmosphere, and, frankly, as a star vehicle for the horror all-stars that populate the film. And it succeeds wildly on that level. If you're a fan of the genre, it will be very hard for you not to fall in love with some of the movie. Is it really successful? No, and if you're not a fan of the genre, you're probably going to be both bored and confused. For myself, I love this movie. I love its look, I love its feel, I love its drug-crazed plot. But most of all, I love the look of Lavinia, and to see Barbara Steele in her last great Gothic performance. There's something very reassuring when you have a film with Karloff and Lee in it, but the supernatural villain is played by Barbara Steele. The film has all the cliches nicely in order: the dead witch looking for revenge, the sinister house, the family intrigue, dark ancestral secrets, and of course, a big fire at the end. It also serves as a perfect cap to nearly a decade of great performances by Barbara Steele. Thank you for joining me this month as we've looked back at the films of Barbara Steele. I hope maybe you found a few new favorites and maybe even found the film you'll watch on Halloween night. There's a lot of good choices here. But mostly this is a big thank you to the one and only Barbara Steele for so many great films, so many wonderful memories, and so many delicious nightmares. Have a great Halloween.
Enter our world of darkness. You know what you have to do.
I do.